The mysterious tombs in the rock. The Kaplıcaya rock tomb doesn't look like it should be on this planet. Hidden in the mountains of Turkey, the tomb's entrance looks like a colossal doorway into a hidden mountain kingdom. The rock tomb, if it even is a tomb, is beyond mysterious. It's existed for thousands of years. Scientists have known about it for quite some time, but nobody's ever come close to understanding what it is. It was likely carved from the side of the mountain 2,200 years ago. Whoever built the huge doorway also carved stairs into the mountainside leading to its towering portal. Although it does look like a doorway, it doesn't open. And although it looks like there is something vast hidden on the other side, there isn't. The imposing size of the door makes it seem like there's a huge grotto behind it, when in reality it's a tiny crypt. The entrance isn't even big enough for a person to walk through. There's a tiny hole like a doggy door at the bottom that you have to crawl through. Then on the other side, there's a niche only big enough to hold a single body. The Kaplıcaya rock tomb is not a tourist destination. If you ever found your way here, you would be alone and able to wander at will. Nobody knows if anyone was buried here or if the tomb was used for a legendary king. There is simply no information and no archaeological evidence to solve its baffling mystery. The Column of Death. In Mexico's Oaxaca state, there is an archaeological site called Mitla. Within the site is a pillar known as the Column of Death. Most of the information about this strange relic has been lost. The Spanish damaged the site so much in the 16th century that it's a miracle the pillar survived. Despite the lack of knowledge, researchers believe the pillar was closely associated with one of the weirdest rituals of Mesoamerica. Let's start with Mitla itself. The site is nearly 5,000 feet above sea level, perched at the edge of a great valley and surrounded by the beautiful Sierra Madre del Sur. It's also only a few miles from Oaxaca city, making it easily accessible. The ancient place was founded by the Zapotec, but they weren't the first ones to occupy it. Archaeological evidence shows people lived here as early as 900 BC. Mitla was a tiny village and totally insignificant. Then, around 500 BC, the Zapotec began to expand it into a religious center. The Zapotec were also the people behind Monte Alban, an incredible settlement of temples and pyramids that rivals even the legendary Machu Picchu. 1,000 years went by, and the Spanish showed up in 1521. The city was still functioning as an ordinary Zapotec city, right up to the point that the Spanish destroyed it. The Spanish were threatened by the religious power held within Mitla. Locals also believed Mitla was home to a portal that led directly to the underworld. The Spanish saw that as a blasphemy against God and destroyed almost everything. But they didn't destroy the Column of Death. According to legend, people would hug the pillar to see when they would die. They would hold the pillar for dear life and pay close attention to any sensations. If it felt like the pillar was moving a little, that meant the person hugging it would die soon. Researchers don't know for sure if this ritual was really practiced. However, there is damage to the pillar that appears to be from relentless hugging. It's currently prohibited to hug the Column of Death, so don't even think about it. If it wasn't prohibited though, would you want to hug it? And now for number 6, but first it's shout-out time. I wanted to give a big thank you to Pink132HY for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about mysterious ancient places. The Sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes. Do you believe in miracles? It's a tough question with no definitive answer. But whether you're a believer or not, there's one place in France that draws countless pilgrims in search of miracles. It's called the Sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes. In February 1858, a peasant girl named Bernadette Soubirous experienced a series of apparitions. She saw a girl dressed in white, who after several appearances introduced herself as the Virgin Mary. This led to the construction of the first sanctuary in 1863. Then another sanctuary was built, and another and another. The area now has 22 places of worship spread across 51 hectares of land. There are several churches and basilicas. You can think of it as an amusement park of religious wonders and miracles. The heart of the religious complex is the Grotto of the Massabielle. This is where Bernadette saw the Virgin Mary. It's also where pilgrims from across the globe come to be healed of their ailments. The water of the grotto is said to be holy. There is an entire water system hooked up to the grotto so that pilgrims can get it from the tap. But just how miraculous is the water? Scientists have done tests and found no unique properties. It's just ordinary water, with no medicinal benefits. Still, those who believe say the Lord's water has great power. You can buy rosary beads that contain small vials of the water as religious relics. The haunted prison. Let's turn to curses. There is an ancient house in England that used to be used as a jail for holding witches. The house is nicknamed the Cage, and it's said to be plagued by the spirits of dead sorcerers. The house is located in St. Osyth, Essex. It's a quaint cottage with 2 bedrooms that went up for sale in 2019. The house is so notorious that when news spread it was for sale, TV crews swarmed the place. It became national news, which isn't something that normally happens when someone tries to sell a house. Believe it or not, it was the 3rd time owner Vanessa Mitchell tried to sell the Cage since she moved out in 2008. Mitchell herself left after a series of paranormal incidents. She kept seeing blood spatters where there shouldn't have been any blood spatters. She also claimed that she was physically attacked by ghosts. She also claimed she kept seeing a goat with a disturbingly satanic look to it. Just what happened here to make the house so tormented by spirits? To understand, I have to take you back to a series of brutal witch trials in 1582. That was the year 14 women were accused of heresy and practicing witchcraft. During the trials, the 14 women were kept at the Cage. This was before the humble cabin was a home, when it was used as a cold and cruel jail. One of the women accused of witchcraft was Ursula Kemp. She was a local healer who angered the wrong person and paid the price for it. Ursula allegedly cast spells on her neighbor's newborn child. To save her own skin, she tried to lay the blame on a different woman in the village. That other woman tried to do the same thing, shifting blame to other women. It spiraled out of control until 14 people were accused of practicing witchcraft. It was utter hysteria. Keep in mind that this kind of hysteria was fairly normal in the 16th century, especially in Essex. It was one of the major hotspots for witchcraft trials. In the 1640s, 112 women were executed for consorting with the devil and practicing wizardry. Out of those 112, 82 of them were killed in Essex. Ursula Kemp was found guilty of witchcraft, along with 2 other women out of the 14 who were accused. She was sentenced to hang until dead. This is why the seemingly cute little home with its bright yellow facade and rustic bricks is said to be the most haunted place in England. In 1921, 2 female skeletons were uncovered here. It's believed one of them was Ursula Kemp. Her suspected skeleton was dug out of the back garden. The skeleton was embedded with nails, which was common practice to keep a witch from rising from the dead. In 2019, the Cage was set up for sale for about $305,000. That price has undoubtedly gone up since then. How much would you pay for a haunted house with potential witch bones in the backyard? Canada's Stonehenge. Canada isn't exactly known for its ancient monuments, but maybe it should be. In the province of Alberta, just a few dozen miles south of Calgary, there is an incredible Native American site called Iniskim Umapi. It's been called the Stonehenge of Canada. For thousands of years, people have been making pilgrimages to the monument for physical and spiritual healing. Iniskim Umapi is one of the oldest religious monuments on the planet. It's been around for 5,000 years, situated on a patch of flat land. At the site, you can look straight across the horizon without seeing as much as a hill. It's not exactly a henge in the way you might be thinking, meaning it's not built from tall stone pillars. It's a medicine wheel built from a central cairn of stones and completed with 28 stone lines radiating from the core like rays from the sun. Then at the very edge is a ring of stones about 100 feet in diameter. It's not as awe-inspiring as the Stonehenge in England. That being said, coming to this place in the windswept prairie is still a powerful experience. One might even argue it's a more powerful experience than visiting Stonehenge, since there aren't tour groups and there isn't a highway 10 feet away. In the ancient language of the Blackfoot tribe, Iniskim Umapi means Buffalo Calling Stone Sacred Site. The Europeans called it the Majorville Medicine Wheel. Whatever you want to call it, the strange geoglyph is shrouded in mystery. It's been around since the first phase of construction at Stonehenge. Both structures were built roughly at the same time, but it was so long ago that, like Stonehenge, the original purpose of the monument is unknown. It was likely constructed by the ancestors of the Blackfoot, but that's purely speculation. It's been a ceremonial site since time immemorial. The House of the Dead. Everywhere you go in London, you're walking over multiple layers of lost history. Take the House of the Dead, for example. It's an old charnel house on the historic Fleet Street. Underneath its foundation are the ruins of at least 7 previous buildings. Experts think the earliest layer beneath the House of Doom dates to the Roman period, roughly 2,000 years ago. The House of the Dead is more formally known as St. Bride's Church. It's an iconic piece of London, designed in 1672 by famous architect Sir Christopher Wren. The church was constructed after the old one burned down in the Great Fire of London. Most recently, the charnel house was obliterated by Nazi incendiary bombs in World War II. In the 1950s, after the war was over, the church was rebuilt. During the restoration works, crypts were found far below the structure. The bodies buried beneath the church had come from several different periods in history. There were hundreds of them. Some had died during the Great Plague of 1665. Others died more recently in the London cholera epidemic of 1854. But that was only the tip of the iceberg. As workers continued digging, they continued finding bones. They soon had a very strange situation on their hands. 7,000 human remains were uncovered, entombed deep within the structure. Some of the skulls had been lined up almost as if they were decorations. The bones were organized in a very peculiar fashion. Scientists still don't know where all the bones came from or what was going on. They date to the earliest of the Middle Ages, likely to a time when London's population was increasing. Candovan. Candovan is a place straight out of a fairy tale. It's a rocky village in northwestern Iran that's been around for 700 years. Candovan has seen empires rise and fall, civilizations bloom and crumble, and people still live here today. Many of the people in Candovan dwell inside caves that have been hollowed into houses. It's like crawling through a dwarven village from Lord of the Rings, or a rocky version of the Shire. The caves have glass windows and colorful wooden doorways. In the winter, the rocks are covered in snow and it's almost too cold to breathe. Although the village itself is only about 7 centuries old, the rocky terrain has been inhabited since the dawn of civilization. Early followers of Zoroastrianism carved their homes from volcanic rock spires that look like termite mounds. Their history is completely lost, so we don't really know anything about them. We only know that they existed. In 317 BC, Commander Antigonus Monophthalmus of Macedonia wrote that he encountered cavemen in the region. He was likely referring to Candovan's isolated troglodytes. The recorded history of the village begins with the Mongol invasions of Genghis Khan in the 13th century. People fleeing the Mongol army took shelter within the caves and caverns. Even when the threat of the Mongols was gone, people kept living in Candovan, expanding the caves and making their village larger. People have been here ever since. Magic Mountain. In the 1860s, Magic Mountain was a popular spot for picnics near Denver, Colorado. The earliest settlers stumbled upon heaps of artifacts here, many of them simply laying in the grass. Local newspapers promoted Magic Mountain as the perfect destination for a picnic, lunch, and some treasure hunting. It wouldn't be until the 1950s that scientific excavations took place. Even after decades of research, the strange site continues to stump the experts. Magic Mountain is no longer the picturesque picnic destination it was in the 19th century. It's an area of grassland sandwiched between modern roads and housing developments, but it's still an important historical site. Researchers have found artifacts from 7,000 years ago here. It's believed people settled here at the very end of the Ice Age, perhaps as far back as 10,000 years ago. When I say artifacts, I mean things like projectile points, post-hers, and animal bone fragments. But archaeologists have found even more. They've recently been uncovering stone foundations. This has come as a huge surprise because Native Americans were not believed to have established stone-walled settlements pretty much ever. Never mind during the Ice Age. Native Americans were supposedly nomads. But at Magic Mountain, there is physical proof that stone buildings stood here when mammoths still roamed North America. Which of these awesome places do you wish you could visit right now? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and come back soon for more amazing videos.